He saved the world by becoming a hero, but now the very thing keeping him alive is slowly killing him. What happens when the arc reactor in your chest becomes both your greatest power and your fatal weakness? Drop a comment telling us your favorite hero moment. Then let's dive into a story about legacy, sacrifice, and what it means to truly live. The screen opens on darkness, then a countdown appears in cold digital numbers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Suddenly we're inside the Iron Hero armor, the heads-up display flooding with data in electric blue and white. Through the eye slits we see a massive stage, thousands of faces in the crowd, spotlights cutting through smoke and darkness. The faceplate opens, revealing Tony Stark in full showman mode, arms spread wide, grinning at the roaring crowd. He's at the Stark Expo, a massive technology festival he's created, and the camera pulls back to show the scale. Enormous screens, futuristic pavilions, fireworks exploding overhead in brilliant cascades of gold and silver against the night sky. Tony addresses the crowd with electric charisma, pacing the stage in his armor, spotlights following every movement. The camera captures the armor in full glory now, sleek red and gold plates catching and reflecting the stage lights, creating patterns of brilliance across the metal surface. He talks about the future, about innovation, about his father's legacy and his own vision. The crowd hangs on every word. Behind him, massive screens show montages of technological advancement, all building to this moment of triumph. Tony raises both hands, repulsors glowing, and the crowd goes wild. The camera spins around him, fireworks reflected in the polished metal, the arc reactor in his chest pulsing with steady blue light. But cut to 6 months later, and everything looks different. We're in Tony's Malibu workshop, and the lighting is harsher now, more clinical. Tony sits shirtless at his workbench, the arc reactor exposed in his chest. But something's wrong. The camera moves in close to show dark veins spreading from the reactor site across his skin like poisonous roots, black and sickly against his pale flesh. He injects something into his arm. The fluid is green and luminous. His face contorts briefly with pain, then settles into grim acceptance. Jarvis, his AI assistant, displays a holographic model of Tony's body on the screens around him. The blood toxicity levels are highlighted in angry red, 47% and climbing. The camera holds on Tony's face as he stares at these numbers, the blue glow from the reactor and the red warning lights creating purple shadows under his eyes. He dismisses the display with an irritated gesture and pulls on a shirt, hiding the evidence. The camera follows him upstairs to where Pepper Potts is working, surrounded by tablets and documents in the bright, airy living room, with its wall of windows showing the Pacific Ocean sparkling in morning sunlight. She's been promoted to CEO of Stark Industries, and the stress shows in the tightness around her eyes even as she maintains her professional composure. She's elegant in a charcoal business suit, her strawberry blonde hair pulled back, going over quarterly reports. Tony enters and immediately starts making jokes, deflecting, avoiding. The camera alternates between them, Pepper trying to discuss serious business matters, Tony sabotaging every serious moment with humor or flirtation. She finally looks up at him, really looks, and something in his eyes makes her pause. She asks if he's okay. He smiles, says he's never been better. The smile doesn't reach his eyes. She doesn't believe him but lets it go, turning back to her work. The camera lingers on Tony's face as he watches her, something unspoken and heavy in his expression. Washington, D.C., and the lighting shifts to the cold fluorescence and marble solemnity of a Senate hearing room. Tony sits at a witness table, and the camera shows the scale of the space. High ceilings, rows of senators elevated above him, press cameras clustered in the back. Senator Stern, a man with silver hair and a politician's practiced smile, demands that Tony turn over the Iron Hero armor to the government, calling it a weapon too dangerous for private hands. The camera catches Tony's smirk, his body language deliberately casual, almost disrespectful. He argues the armor isn't a weapon but a prosthesis, a part of him. The camera shows him tapping his chest where the arc reactor glows beneath his shirt. Senator Stern calls a witness, Justin Hammer, a rival defense contractor with perfectly styled hair and an expensive suit that somehow looks cheaper than Tony's. Hammer takes the stand with practiced confidence, but the camera catches the desperation in his eyes, the need to prove himself Tony's equal. He presents his own armored prototypes on video screens throughout the chamber. The footage shows military testing, suits that malfunction spectacularly, one twisting its pilot's body in directions that make the senators gasp. Tony hijacks the video feeds with a gesture, his own technology overriding the Senate's systems. The screens now show footage from around the world, other nations attempting to recreate arc reactor technology, all failing miserably. Armor suits exploding on test ranges, reactors overloading in laboratories, disasters in a dozen countries. Tony argues his point without words. No one else is even close. The camera holds on Senator Stern's face, frustration and impotent anger warring with political calculation. But in the back of the hearing room, mostly ignored by cameras and senators, sits Ivan Vanko, a man with long greasy hair and prison tattoos visible on his neck, watching Tony with eyes that burn with focused hatred. The camera finds him in the crowd, a moment of stillness amid the chaos, his gaze never leaving Tony. No one notices him. No one sees the danger. Cut to Moscow, a cramped apartment that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in months. Ivan sits at a cluttered workbench surrounded by stolen technical documents and crude welding equipment. His father lies dying in a bed against the wall, the lighting dim and yellow, everything filmed in oppressive close quarters that emphasize the poverty and decay. The old man, Anton Vanko, whispers to Ivan about Howard Stark, about stolen credit, about a legacy taken and a family destroyed. Ivan leans close to hear, and the camera captures the moment the father's breathing stops, the son's face transforming from grief into something cold and purposeful. After a long silence, Ivan stands, moves to his workbench and begins to work. The camera shows his hands assembling components, welding circuits, building something with obsessive focus. Days and nights blur together in montage, Ivan working without stopping, without eating, driven by something beyond reason. Finally he completes it, an arc reactor, crude but functional, glowing with the same blue light as Tony's. He holds it up, and the camera captures his face behind the light, his expression mixing triumph with madness. Monaco, and everything is sunshine and wealth, and beautiful people. The Monaco Grand Prix fills the screen with speed and color, Formula One cars screaming around the track, crowds in designer sunglasses, yachts in the harbor, everything drenched in Mediterranean light that makes the water sparkle like diamonds. Tony is here with Pepper and his assistant Natalie Rushman, a striking woman with red hair and an watchful intelligence behind her professional demeanor. They're in the Stark Industries luxury box, and through the windows we see the race unfolding below. Tony, impulsive and showing the recklessness of someone who knows his time is limited, suddenly decides to drive in the race himself. Pepper objects, her voice rising with concern that's more than just professional. Tony ignores her, is already moving toward the pit. The camera follows him through the crowds, security trying to keep up, until he's in a race suit, helmet on, climbing into a car. The race begins. The camera alternates between Tony's perspective inside the helmet, the track rushing past, the heads-up display showing speed and trajectory, and external shots of the sleek race car navigating the curves of Monaco at impossible speeds. The engine screams. The crowd is a blur. Tony is completely focused, alive in a way we haven't seen him since the first film, the danger and speed and precision clearly feeding something in him. Then Ivan Vanko walks onto the track. The camera shows him emerge from the crowd in slow motion, wearing rough work clothes, walking with purpose down the center of the racing line. The race cars swerve around him, drivers shouting through their radios. Ivan stops, stands still, arms at his sides. He reaches up and touches a button on the arc reactor he's built into a crude harness on his chest. Power surges. Electric whips extend from his hands, crackling with blue-white energy that scorches the asphalt where they touch. The camera pulls back to show him standing there, a figure of raw power and barely contained rage, as the race cars continue to approach at 200 miles per hour. Tony rounds the corner and sees him. The camera is tight on Tony's face inside the helmet, his eyes widening. He hits the brakes. The car slides, tires screaming, but there's no time. Ivan swings one whip, and it cuts through Tony's car like paper, the vehicle splitting in half in a shower of sparks and torn metal. The camera follows both pieces as they spin away in different directions, finally coming to rest in smoking ruin. Tony, strapped in the remnant of the cockpit, fights to breathe through the impact shock. Through cracked visor he sees Ivan approaching, the whips dragging behind him and leaving glowing lines on the pavement. Chaos erupts around them. Other cars crash trying to avoid the wreckage. People scream. Security runs toward the track but stops, unsure how to approach a man with energy weapons. Ivan reaches Tony's wrecked car and tears the cockpit apart with his whips, metal peeling away like foil. The camera shows Tony's face, vulnerable and very human, looking up at this man who somehow has arc reactor technology. Ivan speaks in Russian accented English, something about debts and fathers and sins. He raises a whip to strike. A car slams into Ivan from the side. Happy Hogan, Tony's bodyguard and driver, has driven onto the track in a Rolls-Royce, using the armored vehicle as a weapon. Ivan is thrown back but not hurt. He turns toward this new threat, whips crackling. Happy reverses, trying to draw him away from Tony. Pepper is in the passenger seat, and the camera shows her face pressed against the window, watching in horror as Ivan advances on them. Happy rams Ivan again. The whips cut into the car's hood, energy arcing through the engine. Steam explodes from under the hood. They're trapped. Tony uses the distraction. Happy has brought the armor in the Rolls-Royce's trunk. Tony deploys it. A new system, the armor arriving in a portable briefcase. The camera captures the deployment in loving detail. Tony places his feet in the case's designated spots, presses a button and mechanical arms unfold. Armor pieces snapping onto his body in rapid sequence. Boots, legs, torso, arms, each piece locking with satisfying metallic clicks. The whole process takes seconds. The helmet forms last, the faceplate closing as Ivan turns back toward him. Now it's a fight between equals. Two arc reactors, two sets of technology, both glowing with that distinctive blue light. Ivan's whips versus Tony's repulsors. They clash on the racetrack, energy meeting energy in brilliant flashes that leave after images. The crowd has scattered but cameras are everywhere, capturing everything. Tony fights defensively, trying to disable rather than kill, looking for the reactor on Ivan's chest. The whips wrap around Tony's armor, energy surging through the metal, systems shorting out. Warning lights flood Tony's display. He grabs one whip with an armored hand, pulling Ivan close, then fires a repulsor point blank into the reactor harness. The blast sends Ivan flying back. His harness sparks, fails, the whips die. Security finally rushes in, tackling Ivan to the ground. The camera shows him being restrained, but his face wears a disturbing smile, blood on his teeth. He laughs, speaking to Tony in broken English. You lose. You lose. I proved anyone can build this. The camera holds on Tony's face inside the helmet. The implications of those words clearly hitting home. His monopoly on the technology is broken, and with it any hope of controlling how it's used. The aftermath. The Monaco police take Ivan away. Tony stands on the destroyed track surrounded by wrecked cars and burn marks, the armor scorched but intact. Pepper runs to him, and the camera captures her relief and fury mixing as she shouts at him about his recklessness. Tony tries to joke it off, but she cuts through it, her voice breaking. I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you kill yourself. The camera moves in close on both their faces. Something shifts in Tony's eyes, a recognition that his actions hurt more than just himself. But he doesn't apologize, doesn't explain. He just tells her she's right, she should resign as CEO. She stares at him, disbelief and hurt crossing her expression. Before she can respond, he's walking away, the armor's footsteps heavy on the torn asphalt. The camera stays on Pepper's face, isolated in the wreckage, the Mediterranean sun suddenly seeming harsh rather than beautiful. In a Russian prison, Ivan sits in a cell, his crude arc reactor confiscated. The camera shows the dim institutional lighting, the concrete walls. Justin Hammer appears at the cell door, his face visible through the bars. He looks nervous, excited, like a kid attempting something dangerous. The camera cuts between them as Hammer proposes a deal. He can get Ivan out, give him resources, equipment, funding, if Ivan will help him build armor to compete with Tony's. Ivan studies Hammer with obvious contempt, but after a long moment he nods slowly. The camera pulls back to show the entire cell block, guards mysteriously absent, as the cell door opens and Ivan walks free, Hammer scurrying alongside him like an eager puppy. Something in Ivan's expression suggests he has his own plans, his own agenda. The camera catches his eyes, still burning with that focused hatred, now mixed with calculating intelligence. Back in Malibu, things deteriorate. Tony sits in his workshop, the lighting dim and blue from computer screens. Holographic displays float around him showing blood toxicity at 61%. The dark veins spreading from the arc reactor are worse now, visible up his neck, impossible to fully hide under clothing. He's been testing alternative elements to replace the palladium core that's poisoning him, but every simulation ends in failure, either unstable or insufficient power output. The camera shows his face as he watches another simulation collapse into a red fade indicator. For the first time we see genuine fear in his eyes. Not fear of dying, but fear of dying without solving this, without finding an answer. He throws a party. His birthday party, but really awake, though no one else knows it. The Malibu mansion is packed with people, music pounding, lights flashing, champagne flowing. Tony gets drunk, really drunk, and decides to wear the armor. The camera captures the shift in the party's mood. People initially thinking it's fun, Tony showing off, using repulsors to create special effects for the crowd. But it gets darker. Tony gets reckless, destructive. He uses the repulsors to create an ice sculpture, to light candles, to pop champagne bottles. People start looking uncomfortable. Pepper tries to intervene. Tony ignores her. James Rhodes, Tony's best friend and military liaison, arrives in full Air Force uniform. The camera shows his face as he walks through the party, sees what's happening, and something in his expression hardens with disappointment and determination. He finds Tony, tries to talk to him quietly, away from the crowd. Tony responds with drunken aggression, making jokes about the military wanting his technology. People are watching now, the party going quiet. Rhodes has had enough. He tells Tony he's done, that if Tony won't be responsible, someone else will be. Rhodes goes down to the workshop. The camera follows him as he finds one of Tony's older armor suits, starts putting it on. Jarvis protests, but Rhodes overrides the system with military codes Tony never knew he had. Upstairs, Tony realizes what's happening. He suits up. They meet in the mansion's main room, the party guests scattering. Seeing two Iron Hero armors facing each other, they fight. Not with murderous intent, but with frustration and betrayal, and years of friendship straining to the breaking point. The camera captures the destruction, repulsor blasts punching through walls, furniture exploding, the mansion's beautiful architecture coming apart. Pepper stands to the side, hands over her mouth, watching these two men destroy everything around them. The fight moves through multiple rooms, both of them evenly matched. Finally, Rhodes gets the upper hand, pins Tony against a wall. They're face to face through the helmets, breathing hard.
Rhodes tells Tony he's disappointed in him. Then he flies out through the ceiling, leaving a massive hole that shows the night sky, stars visible through the dust and smoke. Tony wakes the next morning in the destroyed mansion, still in the armor, surrounded by wreckage. Sunlight streams through holes in the walls and ceiling. The party guests are long gone. Pepper is gone. The camera shows him standing alone in the ruins he's created, pulling off the helmet, his face haggard. The toxicity is at 67% now. The dark veins are unmistakable. He has days, maybe a week. The arc reactor that saved his life is slowly killing him, and he's no closer to a solution.
Nick Fury appears, a tall black man with an eye patch and a long coat. He walks into the destroyed mansion like he owns it, projected confidence and authority in every step. Behind him is Natalie Rushman, except now she's introduced as Natasha Romanoff, and she's wearing tactical gear instead of business attire. Her entire demeanor transformed from helpful assistant to dangerous operative. Tony, hungover and dying and exhausted, barely reacts. They sit in the wreckage and Fury talks about Tony's father, Howard Stark. The camera moves in close as Fury reveals that Howard was part of an organization called S.H.I.E.L.D., that he was working on something important, something he never completed. He passes Tony an old film reel. Tony sets up a projector in the workshop. The film is grainy, colors faded, clearly from the 1970s. It shows Howard Stark, a man who looks like an older, more serious version of Tony, standing in what appears to be the layout for the Stark Expo. The younger Howard addresses the camera directly, speaking to his son across decades. The camera alternates between the film and Tony's face watching it, seeing his father in a new light. Howard talks about limitations, about being held back by the technology of his era, about building something for the future, for Tony specifically. He says the arc reactor was just a stepping stone, a beginning, that the real breakthrough is hidden in the expo itself. The film ends with Howard looking directly at the camera, saying he loves his son, always has. Tony watches the blank screen for a long moment, his face cycling through emotions, grief, understanding, determination. He sets to work. The camera shows him pulling up old blueprints of the Stark Expo, the original designs from his father's era. Jarvis helps, translating the 2D plans into 3D holographic models that float in the workshop. Tony walks through the virtual expo, studying it from every angle. Then he sees it. Hidden in the pathways and building placements is a pattern, a structure at the atomic level. His father embedded the formula for a new element in the very design of the expo, hiding his greatest discovery in plain sight for 40 years. The camera captures Tony's face as understanding floods in. His father was trying to tell him something across time, was giving him the key to survival. Creating a new element requires tools Tony doesn't have. The camera shows him in montage, tearing apart the workshop, using every piece of equipment he owns. He builds a particle accelerator using his car collection as a makeshift tunnel, copper pipes as focusing coils, a laser array constructed from weapons prototypes. It looks insane. Mad scientist territory, wires and metal spanning the entire workshop level. Jarvis calculates constantly, adjusting parameters. Tony works without stopping. The toxicity at 72% now. The dark veins reaching his face, his hands shaking from poisoning. Finally, it's ready. Tony activates the accelerator. The camera pulls back to show the entire rig powering up, energy building, a beam of brilliant white light cutting through the workshop and hitting a triangular prism Tony has positioned. The element synthesizes before his eyes, a new atomic structure, stable and powerful, glowing with that same blue light but brighter, purer. Tony stares at it, this impossible thing his father imagined and he created, this element that doesn't exist in nature but does now, because two Starks across 40 years collaborated on something neither could complete alone. He installs it in the arc reactor. The camera moves in extreme close-up as Tony removes the poisonous palladium core and replaces it with the new element. The reactor flares brilliant blue, brighter than ever before. Energy surges through Tony's body. The dark veins recede, fading from his skin like ice melting. The toxicity numbers plummet. Within seconds he's at 0%. The camera shows his face, relief and wonder mixing with something deeper. Gratitude toward a father he's understanding fully for the first time. He touches the arc reactor, feeling it pulse with clean energy. No longer dying but truly living. But there's no time to celebrate. Jarvis alerts him. Hammer Industries is holding a press event at the Stark Expo, unveiling new military drones. Tony immediately knows something's wrong. He suits up, the new arc reactor making everything more powerful, more responsive. The armor assembles faster, the repulsors glow brighter. He launches from the workshop, shooting across the night sky toward the expo. At the Stark Expo, Hammer takes the stage like a rock star, all spotlight and ego, presenting his new military drones. Rows of them, sleek and armed, each one a walking weapon system. Rhodes is there too, in the armor he took from Tony, now repainted in military colors and called War Machine, covered in additional weapons. Hammer presents him as the partnership between private innovation and military discipline. The crowd applauds. Pepper sits in the VIP section, looking uneasy. On stage, Rhodes looks distinctly uncomfortable in front of the cameras. Tony arrives, landing in the audience, pushing through the crowd toward the stage. He tries to warn Rhodes. Hammer worked with Vanko. This is a trap. But as he speaks, Rhodes's armor locks up, no longer under his control. All the drones activate simultaneously, their targeting systems glowing red. The camera shows the crowd beginning to realize something's wrong. People starting to stand, to edge toward exits. On massive screens above the stage, Ivan Vanko's face appears, broadcasting from Hammer's facility. He's covered in armor now, a full suit he's built, with enhanced whip weapons crackling with energy. He smiles, shows his teeth, speaks one word, drone better. The drones open fire. The crowd panics, stampeding toward exits. Tony immediately goes into protection mode, using his armor to shield civilians, herding them to safety. Rhodes fights against the armor's hijacked controls, managing to regain partial movement. The camera captures the chaos from multiple angles, people running between futuristic pavilions, drones marching in formation, energy weapons firing. Tony and Rhodes end up back to back, fighting off waves of drones together. The partnership is instant, instinctive, their friendship overriding recent conflicts. They move in coordination, repulsors and bullets taking out drones in choreographed combat that lights up the expo grounds. Natasha infiltrates Hammer's facility, moving through it like a ghost. The camera follows her in long tracking shots as she takes down guards with precise, brutal efficiency. Not one wasted movement, every strike calculated. She finds Ivan in a central control room, surrounded by screens showing the expo attack. She tries to disable his systems, but Ivan has anticipated this. He activates his armor, the whips extending, and escapes through an emergency exit. Natasha manages to free Rhodes's armor from remote control before pursuing Ivan. Rhodes's armor comes back online mid-fight. The camera shows his face inside the helmet, relief flooding in as control returns. He and Tony quickly strategize. Tony will handle the remaining drones. Rhodes will evacuate the area and set up a perimeter. They separate, each trusting the other completely. The drones converge on Tony, dozens of them forcing him to fly, to lead them away from the crowds. The camera follows as he rockets between the expo buildings, drones in pursuit, their targeting lasers painting red lines through the night air. He leads them to an enclosed courtyard and stops, hovering, letting them surround him. They form a sphere around him, weapons charged, all targeting him simultaneously. The camera spins slowly, showing Tony at the center, metal death on all sides. He raises both hands. The camera moves in extreme close-up on his face inside the helmet, calm, calculated, knowing exactly what he's doing. He fires repulsors and a chest beam simultaneously, but not at the drones. He fires at the ground beneath him. The energy reflects off surfaces, bounces between buildings, creates a chain reaction. Every drone explodes at once. The camera pulls back to show the entire courtyard erupting in fire and light. Tony at the center of the blast, his armor's shields absorbing the damage. But Ivan is still coming. He arrives in his full armor, a massive suit with whips that can extend 20 feet, crackling with the power of a dozen arc reactors. He's turned himself into a monster of technology and rage. The camera shows him emerging from smoke and fire, backlit by burning drones, the ultimate expression of weaponized genius. Tony lands to face him. They're in the expo's central plaza, surrounded by Howard Stark's vision of the future, about to destroy it. They fight. Ivan's whips tear through the environment, slicing through pavilions, wrapping around columns and tearing them down, creating destruction on a massive scale. Tony is faster, but Ivan's reach and power are overwhelming. The whips catch Tony, wrap around his armor, energy surging through the systems. Tony's display flickers, warnings cascading. Ivan pulls him close, face to face through their helmets. He speaks about legacy again, about sons and fathers and revenge. The camera captures both their faces. Ivan's twisted with satisfaction. Tony's determined, thinking. Rhodes arrives, War Machine's weapons armed. Together they coordinate an attack. The camera follows their assault from multiple angles, repulsors and bullets, attacking from different vectors, forcing Ivan to split his attention. But Ivan adapts, his whips moving independently, fighting both of them simultaneously. They're in a stalemate, neither side able to gain advantage, the plaza being demolished around them. Tony signals Rhodes with a glance, a nod. They've fought together enough that no words are needed. They fly toward each other, repulsors aimed at each other. Ivan sees it, moves to intercept. At the last second, Tony and Rhodes angle their repulsors, both beams hitting at the exact same point. The energy combines, amplifies, creates a massive explosion. The camera shows it from Ivan's perspective, a wall of white light coming toward him, impossible to dodge. It hits. His armor explodes, the arc reactors overloading in sequence, like fireworks. Ivan falls, his armor in pieces. The whips die. He lies in the wreckage, defeated, dying. His last words are a whisper about having proved his point. Then the reactors in the armor debris begin beeping, counting down. A final trap. Tony realizes first. He grabs Rhodes and they fly straight up, shooting toward the sky as fast as the armor allows. Behind them the entire courtyard explodes, a chain reaction of failing arc reactors that creates a blast visible for miles. The camera follows them ascending, the fireball expanding below, catching them at the edge, both armors damaged by the shockwave. They tumble, free fall, barely catch themselves before impact, landing hard on a nearby rooftop. Both of them lie there for a moment, armor smoking, systems critical. The faceplates open. They look at each other and start laughing, exhausted, relieved, alive. The camera pulls back to show them on the rooftop, the expo burning in the background, two figures in damaged armor laughing like the friends they've always been. Later, in the aftermath, emergency responders flood the expo. The damage is extensive, but the casualties are miraculously low, thanks to Tony's protection of the crowds. Pepper finds Tony sitting on a piece of debris, armor removed, just a man in damaged clothes. She sits beside him. They don't speak immediately. The camera frames them from a distance, two people who've been through something impossible together. Finally, Tony apologizes, really apologizes, for the recklessness and the secrets and the walls he's built. Pepper looks at him, sees the sincerity, sees that he's different somehow. She takes his hand. The camera moves closer as they talk quietly, honestly, finally beginning to address the feelings that have been building between them. They lean toward each other, and just as their lips are about to meet, Happy interrupts with urgent paperwork. The moment breaks. They laugh at the absurdity, but when they look at each other again, something has shifted. There's a promise there now, acknowledged even if not yet fulfilled. In a government debriefing room, all white walls and fluorescent lights, Tony meets with Fury. They sit across a metal table. Fury tells him that his actions during the Expo attack have been evaluated, that despite everything, Tony proved himself capable. The camera moves in close as Fury says Tony is being considered for something called the Avengers Initiative. Tony smirks, says he doesn't play well with others. Fury agrees, says he's actually a consultant at best. But there's respect in Fury's voice, acknowledgement that when it mattered, Tony made the right choices. Tony goes to see Rhodes, who's recovering in a military hospital. Rhodes sits up in bed, bruised but intact. Tony brings him a box of donuts, sits in the visitor's chair. They talk about the armor, about what happens next. Rhodes says he's keeping the War Machine suit, military property now. Tony acts offended but can't hide the smile. The truth is he upgraded that armor specifically for Rhodes before the party, anticipated this, wanted his friend protected. Rhodes knows it. The camera captures their understanding, the unspoken communication of a friendship that survived betrayal and battle and came out stronger. The final scene shows Tony in a completely rebuilt workshop, the new arc reactor glowing in his chest as he works on armor improvements. But this time Pepper is there too, working at her own station, handling the business side while Tony handles the technical. They work in comfortable silence, occasionally exchanging glances, smiles. The camera pulls back slowly, showing them in this space together, partners in every sense, building something neither could build alone. Jarvis announces an incoming call. The screens light up with a mission brief, something about unusual energy readings in the desert. Tony looks at Pepper. She nods. The camera shows him standing, moving toward the armor assembly platform, the arc reactor in his chest glowing brighter, stronger than ever. He steps onto the platform, and we watch the armor assemble around him one more time, each piece locking perfectly into place, the red and gold catching the workshop lights, the design sleeker and more powerful than before. The faceplate closes. The eyes light up. Through the helmet we see Tony smile, not the cocky grin from before, but something more grounded, more purposeful. He's not just a man in armor anymore. He's Iron Hero, fully realized, powered by an element that represents his father's legacy and his own innovation, ready for whatever comes next. He launches through the ceiling, and the camera follows him out into the night sky, over the city lights, higher and higher until he's just a glowing point against the stars. The arc reactor in his chest pulses steadily, a blue star of his own making, proof that some poisons can be overcome, that dying can become living, and that the things we build can save us, if we build them for the right reasons. The screen fades on that image, one man suspended between Earth and space, carrying his father's dreams and his own determination, the reactor glowing like a promise that some legacies are meant to continue, to evolve, to become something neither generation could imagine alone. He saved the world by becoming a hero, but the real victory was learning that the thing slowly killing him could be transformed into the very thing that let him truly live. Sometimes survival isn't about escaping death, but about choosing what we carry forward, and who we carry it with.